What's up, everybody? It's a very cold morning out here. It's probably about 17 degrees in my truck, and I'm just getting it warmed up, so my fingers are a little bit numb. It's a real page turner. Hopefully they can turn a page or two. So I'm in Psalm 60 right now, and hope you follow along with me here. And I want to just start with the superscription. It says, to the choir master, according to Shushan Eduth, a miktam of David for instruction. When he strove with Aram, Naharaim, and Aram Zobah, and when Joab on his return struck down 12,000 of Edom in the Valley of Salt. Now, that sounds kind of confusing at the first take, right? So let me just kind of break that down real quick. This is to the choir master. So this is a poem or a song of worship. It's for the choir master to utter before the people and lead the people in praise to God. And it's a miktam of David, which means sometimes it's a maskil or a miktam, which are kind of the same thing. It's basically a contemplation of David. It's something that he thought about and that he really just poured over in his remembrance of things that had gone on in his time. And then he writes down really what happened and where he saw the hand of God. And it's for instruction. So it's for you, and it's for me, and it's for the people of Israel. And it recalls a time when he dealt with these different guys. And let me just break down what this is through my study. So you can find in 2 Samuel chapter 8, you can find this account of what happens in this battle. And what David did is, he's been given the promise by God in 2 Samuel 7, where David is told that a king will come from him that will sit upon his throne. And this king will be the Son of God, the Messiah. This king will have a never-ending kingdom that will last through all generations and forever and ever. That promise is given to David, and I guarantee you that David is very protective of God's promise. And what he does next, really in the next chapter after that promise by God is given, which is the most pivotal? It's pivotal, Joe. I'm just cold. And fundamental chapter, I would say, in the whole Bible. It's where the big turn happens, and you see that David is the one that Jesus Christ ultimately is going to come through. And don't you think David would have taken that seriously? Of course he did. The news to his ears that he is the one who God himself will come through, it's just amazing. You think David was protective of that promise? Absolutely. And what David does is he strikes out against his enemies, I believe, to protect God's promise. Everything that David did, except for the screwed up stuff, was to protect God's promise. And so he strikes out against the Philistines down in the south near Gaza, which, if you watch the news, those people are still screwing around. He strikes out to the north into Syria. He goes to the Euphrates River. David's up in Iraq, hooking and jabbing. He strikes out against Moab and Ammon in the east, and Edom. He basically pushes his borders north, south, east, and west, and he takes on everybody that wants a piece. And from the best that I can see through 2 Samuel chapter 8, David and his men kill 40,000 enemy. And that's just a staggering number when you think of the carnage on the battlefield that those men did, the violence that they took, and how important to David it was that he strikes against his enemies and protect what God has promised to do. So we had some carnage, we had some bloodshed. And David recalls in this Psalm 60, he says, "O God, you have rejected us, broken our defenses. You've been angry. Oh, restore us. You've made the land to quake. You've torn it open. Repair its breaches, for it totters. You've made your people see hard things. You've given us wine to drink that makes us stagger." What he's saying here is, God, we've been broken. We've been beaten down. We've been staggering out around like drunken men. We've just been confused and we've been messed up. And he asks for God to go forth with them in the battle. And while he's asking that, he's also recalling that God has gone forth with them in this battle. And towards the end of the chapter here, it's only 12 verses long, he asks, "Who will bring me to the fortified city? Who will lead me to Edom? Have you not rejected us, O God? You do not go forth, O God, with our armies. O grant us help against the foe, for vain is the salvation of man. With God we shall do valiantly. It is he who will tread down our foes." For me, that's the big takeaway from this chapter. When you recall that history, and the nation of Israel had always gone through times when God fought for them because they were trusting in him, and when they tried to fight for themselves and they lacked that trust in God, and they went after idols and they went after things that the world said you need to go after. And David reels it all back right here, and he says, it's God who must be fighting our battles, not us. We do not trust in the strength of man. We do not trust in the power of our armies. It's not the might of the Israeli army that has killed 40,000 of our enemy. It is the strength of the Lord. He says, vain is the salvation of man. And there's such an applicational aspect of that for David's specific situation right there. But for us, spiritually, it rings so true. Vain is the salvation of man. It's vanity. If you think that you can save yourself, if you think that you can be good enough to reach to heaven, it's just vanity. And it's not true. You can't. Just like you can't do anything without God going before you and making it happen for you. So in the spiritual and in the here and now on planet Earth, you can't save yourself. And that should be a relaxing thought for you. If it's a thought that you fight against, that's not good. You need to check yourself and truly realize that you can't save yourself. You need the power of the Lord to save you. It is he who goes to fight against your enemies. And how perfect is it when God fights for you? When God goes forth and kills 40,000 of the enemy, it's just so miraculously and plainly seen that he's done that. Just like when he parted the Red Sea. Nobody thought it was Moses parting the Red Sea. Maybe the Egyptians thought that. I don't know. Everybody found out. It wasn't Moses holding up his hands. It was the power of the Lord. It wasn't Moses that was getting the water forth from the rock. It was the Lord. It wasn't Moses leading them through the wilderness. It was the Lord. And battle after battle, trial after trial that you can see in the Word of God, it's always the Lord who goes forth and accomplishes for his people. And when they try to do it on their own, it's always a complete failure, and a joke. And so that's true for you. That's true for me. You need to be the one that lets the Lord go forth and fight for you. And I would say the best way to do that is to just ultimately admit that salvation comes from the Lord. Okay? And so maybe you've got that all cleared up between you and God in your spiritual salvation. And you go, you know what, I'm saved. I asked Christ to save me. I have pledged to him that I belong to him. I trust in him that he's forgiven my sins. And I have that relationship with him. Well, now here on planet Earth, if you want to get through today and tomorrow and keep on going, salvation comes from the Lord. And so whatever you go out and do today, no matter how hard it is, salvation comes through the Lord. And it's a lesson that God has been teaching me for a while. A little inside baseball on this. I moved to Oklahoma last March. And I set out to do something hard. I knew it was going to be hard. And it's hard. I'm running my own business. I'm building several houses right now. And, you know, we are in a downtrend in the economy. And that wouldn't be easy anyways, even if the economy was great. But while the economy is more stagnant, and you have people that are completely confused about which direction to take the country, you know, it's harder. But what God has shown me is that I just have to trust in him, and my salvation comes from him. He will provide the food for my table. He will provide the roof over my head. He'll take care of me and my wife and children. And I rest in that. And while it's hard, it's where I'm used to being. I am used to having to tell God, I don't know how I'm going to finish this thing today. I don't know how I'm going to get this thing done. And every time he shows me that he will lead the way and he will make something happen for me. And I'm not talking about like I see little miracles all the time. I'm not trying to be like weird about it. I'm just saying that when you get used to eating out of the hand of God, like you're a baby rabbit or something, you know, that is exactly where you need to be. It's a good place to be. So I hope you take something like that with you today, and good seeing you. I'll see you next time, a little sooner than last time. Day of Battle out.